thank you, sir, also for setting a very fine example of finishing your paper just absolutely on time. And I hope the others would follow. I now invite our next speaker, Ms. Hande Unsal from Turkey. Her paper is The Impact of Turkish Diasporic Community Living in Germany on German and Turkish Law. I hope we will get to see your paper, because the diasporic issues, intra-Africa, is something about which the knowledge base of most of us is very poor. I have no hesitation in admitting, and I would have loved to have read your paper and then listen to this so that one could absorb much more. But I look forward to receiving this paper. Hopefully we have a copy after this.
Okay. Because of the time limitation, I plan to skip the technical legal parts, and focus more on historical parts of Turkish diaspora and the general function of nationality. Why it is that important for diasporic communities? Well, issues relating to the link between the individual and the state has long been engaging the society, and very likely that it will keep its place on the agenda for the foreseeable future, as the as the movement of people across the national boundaries accelerates. The situation challenges the traditional understanding of nationality and urges the states to develop new approaches on the matter. Some of the general principles of the current national laws have already been open to discussion and even started to be qualified as obsolete. Should I talk here? To live up with the current situation, many states adopted new nationality laws, new migration laws, or amended the current ones. The attitudes of the states concerning the nationality regulations depend according to their positions, though. It is common that the migrant sending countries flatten their regulations so as to keep the connection alive with their national abroad, and on the other hand, attitudes of migrant receiving countries vary. Some of the states keep an easing path, where the others adopt restrictive regulations. The distinction here largely derives from the perception of migrants in the respective states. The policy on migrants constitutes one of the basics of nationality laws. Both for the sending and receiving countries, migrant population becomes a shaping factor of the nationality laws, and is actually strongly influenced from political and social preferences. The period which is initiated with the labor agreement between Turkey and Germany illustrates an interesting example of the case. The Turkish labor migrants, which consequently form the Turkish diaspora in Germany, influence both of the countries politically, economically, and culturally. Today I'm going to speak about its impact on nationality laws of Germany and Turkey. But first I want to deal shortly with the importance and function of nationality to frame the subject. Nationality, which denotes the link between the individual and the state, furnishes the individual with a bunch of rights and duties, and it has another function by which it includes or excludes the individual from a state, from a national community. This could be named as the mental aspect of nationality, and which is very important for the migrant, especially in means of being accepted as a part of the society. But migrants ask for the demand for the new nationality because of securing residence rights and family reunification, gaining political rights, facilitating employment, securing economical rights, and putting an end to the administrative difficulties. States lay down the criteria for acquiring the nationality in their nationality laws and freely, one can acquire nationality from birth or after birth, by mostly after age of 18, by naturalization. From birth, there are two main principles. One is jus sanguinis, we call it. By that way, the nationality is acquired through the mother or the father, and the other one is jus soli. By contrast, this confers the nationality through the place of birth. Usually, the nationalities of the descendants do not play a role in attribution of the nationality. This is important because, especially for the migrants, because in most of the countries, both of the principles are accepted. One of them as a main principle, and the other one is for the exceptional cases. The principle adopted by the country is also important for the immigrants as it determines the nationality of the children that is born in the country. Nationality of the newborn does not constitute a problem in the countries which adopt jus soli, those are more like Anglo-Saxon countries, as the children of the immigrants can acquire the nationality by birth. But in most of the continental countries, nationality by birth is given through the descendants, and this is the problem for the immigrant children. Individuals, especially immigrants, may also acquire nationality by naturalization, and states ask for applying immigrants to meet a number of requirements for naturalization. In most of the European states, these requirements intensify on a minimum period of residency, proof of integration into the host society, and in a few of them, the relinquishment of previous nationality. This is the last one is the hardest condition for migrants as they want to keep their first nationality both for material and mental grounds. On the other hand, the sending states have certain interest in keeping their link with the diasporas, so therefore in order to bypass this relinquishment condition, the sending countries make some alterations in their laws to enable dual nationality. So when we come to the history of Turkish migration to Germany, the Turkish migration to Germany started with the labor agreement, as I said, in 1962, and these times Germany was trying to heal the wounds of the Second World War and was in need of a labor power. On the other hand, Turkey promoted the migration as an employment policy, while the remittances were introduced as a vehicle for exchange flow. With the conclusion of labor agreements, the first wave of labor migrants from Turkey to Germany took place. This was not the sole movement between Germany and Turkey. The number of Turkish inhabitants grew by family unions. Today, the number of Turkish inhabitants in Germany is known about 1.8 million. This constitutes the largest foreign community in Germany and the largest Turkish community out of Turkey. This is why Turkish diaspora community is significant for both Germany and Turkey. When the labor agreement was first signed, Turkish immigrants in Germany were qualified as guest workers. The expectation of German government from this agreement was that the Turkish workers would work there for a period of time and then turn back. Actually, the intention of Turkish workers was no different. They were planning to save some money and then get back to their country. However, in time, the Turkish workers shifted from temporary workers to permanent residents, and while the second and the third generation rose. Compared to the first generation, the new generations are more integrated both in social and economical life, so this also brought their demands to certain rights which are given only to the German nationals. Namely, the Turkish migrants sought for German nationality while keeping their Turkish passport. The migration of Turkish nationals to Germany has caused a radical change in the Turkish nationality law. Because Turkey, till that time, Turkey had a contrary standing against dual nationality. But in order to maintain its link with Turkish people living abroad, Turkey has facilitated legal vehicles and realized significant amendments in nationality code. The chief among them is the introduction of dual nationality in Turkish law. Possessing dual nationality for a Turkish national became possible only after the amendments which was made in 1981. And the leading role in this change was definitely the Turkish migration to Germany. For the first time in its history, Turkish society has faced the concept of mass migration. The migration movements, till that they were much more individual ones, and so this mass migration movement has affected the nationality law as well. The amendment in 1981 was the first ring of a chain of amendments in the Turkish nationality law, and the legislator started to promote the dual nationality, thinking that the acquisition of Turkish nationals, the other countries' nationalities, would also work in favor of Turkey. Indeed, the Turkish nationals abroad provide multi-sided opportunities for Turkey. First of all, these people easier constitutional pressure groups that serve in favor of national politics in the countries they live. In addition to that, they benefit to Turkish economy nearly as much as they benefit to the country they live. Even though emphasis is put on the mental side of the relation, dual nationality actually serves for both economical and political aspects. Well, it's out of doubt that the exception of dual nationality clause has been very useful in keeping the Turks' connection with Turkey. Where dual nationality is an issue concerning two states, in order dual nationality to occur, the individual has to be carrying out two passports. However, some states require relinquishment of the first nationality for naturalization, and Germany was and is one of these countries. So, Turkey made an additional amendment which was previously known as pink card, currently named as blue card practice, and this is, according to this amendment, a Turkish national who renounces Turkish nationality on his own will would enjoy majority of the rights that are granted to a current Turkish national. The only rights excluded are the political rights. This is quite an exceptional practice for nationality laws in general. Also, the exception of this blue card practice is has broken one of the principal rules of Turkish nationality law. This is the rule of equity. With this amendment, a privileged group among foreigners is created. When we come to the German law, it will not be wrong to say that Germany's migration policies are largely shaped as a reaction to being and growing of Turkish population in Germany. In fact, none of the regulations refer solely to Turkish nationals. However, Turkish community has always been the group present in mind when making law or talking about integration. Although Germany recruited large number of foreigners after the Second World War, it always refused to identify itself as a migration country. Therefore, policies on the integration of the migrants were not established. However, the growing number of migrants urged Germany to take some measures. And in 1999, approximately, I'm going to finish, 7.4 million of migrants were living in Germany. So Germany finally has to acknowledge that the guest workers are not guest workers anymore, but they are permanent residents. So it had to bring solutions to three main questions. The first one is, should and under which conditions the immigrant be granted nationality? The second is, should the immigrant child be granted nationality from the birth? And the third one is, should dual nationality be accepted? Okay, maybe I should stop here if somebody is
30 seconds more if you want to conclude.
Okay, I can say that I will focus on the dual nationality. Dual nationality is not accepted still in the German law. It is accepted for some exceptional cases, like if the motherland of the relevant person does not allow to renounce the first nationality, previous nationality, but it doesn't work in favor of Turkish nationals as well. So it's quite an interesting case. Well, I think it has to be explained in detail, so if somebody is interested in the details, I will be pleased to tell about it later. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. I hope you all understand the difficult position in which I am. I would have loved to hear all these papers in much greater detail, and I will urge the organizers in future, please don't put 9 papers in one session of this duration. It is impossible, and it's not doing justice to anybody who travels all the way from a country so far off. The next speaker is Professor Pramod Kumar Mishra. incidents of elder abuse among South Asian immigrants in the US, quest for some remedies. And again, word of advice only, assume or presume that the audience is fully familiar with the all background issues of diaspora.
You will become the rest assured. Chairman and fellow participants, I need to introduce briefly because I have, as a Fulbright scholar and as a Shastri Indo-Caribbean fellow, I have often visited, and then again to a number of American universities I visited, and then I interacted with the South Asian community, students, professionals and elders and young and all on number of occasions. And so I decided that in place of quantitative research, let me go for a little bit of attempt for qualitative research to look at the some of the issues, on the basis of which I have documented and written 3 books, co-authored 3 books along with some American academics in Indiana University, and a number of papers there in some of the American journals. Okay, so it's basically a presentation on the politics of exclusion, not inclusion, right? I mean, I'll be basically talking of the discontents and this whole discourse on diaspora and the development. And among the 3 generations of immigrants, I don't again go into the details and in terms of numbers and all these things of the South Asian diaspora, which is a very visible minority, which is there in the United States, in Canada, and in all these North American regions, and there is abundance of literature. Again, I'm leaving out the details of the literature which I have documented in my paper. Let me straight identify various forms of eldership abuse, which is not only common to the South Asian immigrants, but is also, basically a malignant, basically a problem with other immigrants as well. But why I decided to look at South Asian immigrants? Because of a distinct culture, because of a distinct lifestyle and all that. So I have noticed that some of these indices are applicable to the South Asian immigrants as well. All the elders above 65, they have been a part of the mainstream society at some point of time. They have been immigrants. Sometimes they were young when they went, they became old, now they're dependent on their children. Some of them went as dependents to their professional children, and went on staying there, and they were given social security and in terms of some packages and all that. So but in course of that, many of these elders, in course of various experiences, they have experienced several forms of abuses, not only from their own children, grown-up children, but sometimes when they go to stay in some of the old age homes and some of these places by paying money, quite substantial money, there have been serious cases of abuse. Some of these abuses are, let me identify, the physical abuse, such as behavior like restraining, slapping, kicking, burning, and even medical maltreatment on several occasions. Again, I am leaving out the details. Some of the physical abuse could be verbal, could be emotional abuse, and could be provocation of fear, of violence, or isolation. They would be isolated, and most of the time, nobody would talk to them. They would be kept in a separate room, and things like that. And then a very substantial part of the abuse is the material use, that is intentional or illegal or improper exploitation of the elder person's earnings, elder person's property, even bank accounts, having some fraud cases of theft of the property owned, possessed by these elderly people without their own consent. Some of these are actually, or some of the other categories, again leaving out the details, are various forms of neglect, violation of some of their basic human rights, and even at some points of time, I'm not talking of the families, but by the service providers in the old age homes, you'll find there have been sexual abuse also by some of the service providers at some point of time. Some of the in my paper I have discussed about how do you identify these indicators about the violation of elders. Again, I am leaving out the details. Some of the there are some examples of signs indicating the abuse of elders, and But I can very briefly, as I have about 4 or 5 minutes at my disposal, say that this practically I have highlighted briefly also. Here are some of the examples of the signs indicating the abuse of elders. Briefly, loss of money, bank books, checks. The signature on checks doesn't resemble that of the older adults. Bank statements are no longer coming to the person's home, no more. Sudden, unexplained or large withdrawal from the bank, sudden inability to pay bills or buy food or clothing, receives incorrect change from persons purchasing food on behalf of the elderly persons, loss of jewelry, silverware, paintings, furniture, sculptures, and many others. I am leaving out again the details here. Now, after having said this, I would like to say that how we prevent it. This is the complete part of my observations. How to prevent? What are the ways and means to prevent such abuses, which has been a very useful part of the society? They are now elders. The performance level is less, but there is no point to ignore them anymore. Is it the state, the specialized agencies, or the human rights agencies, the NGOs, human rights NGOs, or the elders themselves, the senior citizens themselves? Are they going to be going to protect their own prestige or rights, or is it a combination of all? In my humble opinion, possibly there can be a judicious mix of all these various forms. By and large, it can be done by empowering, of course, a number of these senior citizens in different countries, the senior immigrants, to protect themselves by promoting respect amongst them, creating a sense of confidence among them, and also creating a sense of belonging, sense of respect among other members of the community. There could be, they could educate, there could be several forms of training for even the caregivers. Very often the caregivers violate it. So the caregivers and even some of the family members also do that. So, they need to be given proper education or proper training, proper orientation. It's also important to strengthen intergenerational relationship and obligations, and try to achieve a balance between three systems again: family, the well-knit family, the market forces, and the welfare schemes which are being introduced by the governments, whether it is US American government or the Canadian government. Some welfare schemes are often introduced from time to time. As far as the South Asian immigrants are concerned, in North America concerned, these immigrants, those who have migrated, at some point of time as professionals or as dependents, all these things, these should, particularly the younger generation, the third generation immigrants actually, these should be sent to their respective home countries, whether it be India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, or any of these countries, to be imbued, to be motivated by their own cultural norms of a joint family system, respect for elders, for instance. All these norms should be inculcated. I've seen some of them doing that. Some of them send their children regularly for 1 month, 2 months, and get them familiar, get them acclimatized to the type of environment that we have in this part of the world. Now, all these, one can say, last but not the least, there is a growing need for taking a holistic approach to look at this chronic problem which inflicts the elder community at large, and the South Asians, of course, are no exceptions to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again for keeping to time. I'm most grateful and obliged. Next paper is Do Numbers Matter? Role of Indian Diaspora from Smaller States, Dr. K.M. Baharul Islam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'll be very offhand and I'll try to actually SMS my paper to you. I can save more time. Basically, I belong to the state of Assam. It's the northeastern part of the green state in the eastern corner. As you see, this is a geopolitically very strategic state. We are surrounded by Bhutan, China, Myanmar on one side, and Bangladesh on another. So basically this is one of the eastern corridor of India, and we have a policy of East policy whereby I travel faster to Bangkok than Delhi, and it's much cheaper to travel to Singapore from Guwahati than coming Delhi. Delhi, Guwahati is 16,000 plus to and from, 9,000 to Bangkok to and from. So that's the eastern part of the country. Over the last few years we have been trying to attract, we are very few people from Assam staying abroad right now, and we have been trying to do this over the last few years. Whenever the Government of India declared this North-East policy, there is a policy whereby Government of India wanted to exploit the geopolitical northeastern region to attract the East Asian market and investment. But there is a strong presence of China, which is more of a diplomatic and defense-related equations. And you cannot make northeastern part too much economically stronger. One indicator of this is that the oil extracted from my state in Assam is not refined in my state. It is brought by pipeline 1,500 kilometers to Baraunian refinery. They don't even refine it in Assam. It has come to some political turmoil in the 60s and 70s, and we have the largest number of insurgent groups, separatist forces in this group. More than 15 are active now, 13 on paper in the Ministry of Home Affairs. Now, what do we do from here? I had an agenda point on this, but anyway, I'll take those out and we'll go straight to some of the issues where the small number issue which I put in title, that does number matter. One of the issues we found is that why we are not doing, the Assamese diaspora is not doing as good as the people from Kerala or Gujarat or Punjab, is the number. The small number of people in diaspora, the smaller contribution we can have in influencing the role and policy making bodies and even the political bosses in a democratic system. The Assamese diaspora has been hosting Assam's chief ministers successively for over the years. Ever since he come back from London, he never remembers anything. The socio-cultural reasons, of course, the Assamese Assamese people are by. There were only two destinations even when we were students 20 years back in other parts of North India. Assamese students used to go only to Pune and Bangalore. Other places does not exist in their parents' mind or in their mind. Now we are going out, but it did not happen, suddenly. Had created over the last, these are the websites and these were the groups were created over the last 5 years. These are the phenomenal things which happened. And two illustrative initiatives we wanted to do this, but these are isolated case, not a kind of concerted policy or concerted effort from the government side. What we try to do in my paper, I am trying to recommend this, and we are presenting in a way. I was associated with African Development back in the Economic Commission for African when we were preparing mobilizing African diaspora for African Union. And there is a huge policy document where we try to consciously invite African diaspora to invest and help African Union and African regional economic bodies like Commerce and SOEDS to invest and also be a part of the national development process. Nowhere the diaspora in Assam, I'm not very sure about Punjab and other states, my research shows that they have a strong sense of belonging to those states. Even they have overseas Indian smaller councils where they have even monitored their employment abroad. Even a Hyderabadi skilled worker faces some problem, they have their overseas councils there. But Assam as a small state, the number matters. Everywhere it goes down somewhere in the blue sheets of a civil servant where he sees that this is not economically possible for 7 or 8 person working in say Iraq and give them guidance or any kind of thing. Now, the big fish, small fish imagery, I'm not going to that. But the only thing is that whenever the apathy is from the government, there is an image problem. The blast happening in Delhi this morning, it did not happen. In Guwahati we don't SMS around asking you are alive. If he's alive, he will come back in the evening. It's happening everywhere. This has become an image problem for us. The average monitoring expert from Shastri Bhavan in Delhi or Dur Bhavan in Delhi goes as far as Brahmaputra Ashraf in Guwahati. He doesn't travel to my home, which is 365 kilometers from Guwahati. The overall image of being a very overshadowing picture of the region being cut. So somebody asked me the other day, is Assam is an auto driver in Delhi in 2011 is asking me, Assam, Delhi, Assam, India mein Meghalaya, wo kahan hai Assam? So these are even one of the chief minister of Mizoram in Singapore, he said, looking as Mongoloid origin backside. And I'm a Sylheti by birth, so my racial, this is the part of Bangladesh before independence, so now it is in Assam. So it is more identical and also socio-cultural, and now it is degenerated into a law and order situation where the image looms large over this. Can you invest $2 million in a place where every 15 days there is a blast or there are 15 insurgent groups working or something like this? The geopolitical strengths, of course, these are the kind of scenario we were looking, and I'll just skip that. I'll go to what kind of the weaknesses. Of course, the tax structure is another. Some of the states live on the perennial central revenue 100%. In Arunachal Pradesh, you don't pay tax. So within the region, there are tax, you can say, inequality, and therefore, some of the states like Assam is, we all buy our car 5 kilometers down from my home. Because after 5 kilometers, Meghalaya starts and your car is 30,000 less. So everybody buys it there. The fuel less to 2 rupees less. So everybody fills the tank 5 kilometers ahead of us. The property rights. Some of the states you cannot buy property. You cannot put a big plant over there. And there are inner land permit. There is another internal visa system. You cannot just travel just like you have come to Delhi. You come to some of the 3 of the states, you have to visit their houses there and take an inner land permit to travel into those things. So those are the kind of jigsaw puzzle we were trying to resolve, but things were not moving in. Now, in the meantime, somebody thought when we pushed it, they wrote something Vishan and look at the kind of thing the government talks about. So many dreams that in each dreams I'll spend a lifetime. This is Assam in 2020, today is 11. Just 9 years ahead, this is the picture which one government came to power with this kind of document. And those documents are not for the people who voted for them, because most of them don't read 2020. They go for 6 rupees per kilo rice or something like that. These are the fodder for the researchers like us. Bang our head on this kind of documents and see what is this. Capital, Guwahati, the state capital, the town to which I belong to, will be the hub of Southeast Asia. Quite good. When Bangkok was trying to have the civil aviation hub, in at that time I was in Delhi, the civil aviation minister, CM Ibrahim, he could not even understand if we put Delhi as the hub of South Asian travel. Look at the Bangkok airport, the kind of civil aviation destination it has become. We lost it somewhere because that time it was a troublesome government that they were we lose it there. So the capital of Guwahati, and then it will contribute significantly to India's export and will be one of the principal foreign exchange earners. Fine, Hyderabad will be where? We'll receive by 2020 more tourists than Singapore. Very good. I think the gentleman got a very good rise in their job. Now, future role of diaspora. I'm jumping to what we are recommending, and that is what the Assamese diaspora over the years, the networks we worked in. This, my input to this were recommended, most of them interaction with those networks in US and Germany and particularly in Netherlands. We need more pilot projects. 2 projects I mentioned, one is in a Vrindaashram, is an old age home, and one is a school which we are running. They were running good, we need to scale them up. And we need strategic and systemic support to involvement of diaspora. People want to come home, want to work with. Of course, with the kind of the preceding paper I heard, I have really loved to stay back, that old age outside. So, we want to produce visible results and start producing benefits immediately. The benefits are coming. We host American interns in our organization, in schools. They come regularly and teach in Guwahati. And of course, we need a sustainability from Assam. The government is more interested in Asian Development Bank's money or World Bank's money, and unfortunately I am an instrument to that, working for African development, and most of the money I actually back for them. But the thing is that, where do we exist? This one slide I wanted to show you, but I'll just skip over. But the thing is that for persons from outside India, the northeastern region has sub-national overtones. 3 states are almost 95% Christian states. One state is for 100% Buddhist state. One touching China, Arunachal Pradesh. 2 states are mainstream states. There are diversity and there are sub-national opportunities. Being an Indian, you go to a Mizoram house estate here, and if you ask for roti, sab yahan to aur Indian nahi hai, aap hi ek Indian. The waiter will tell you that you are the only Indian in this Mizoram house. In fact, Mizoram is a part of India, it is a state. Now, the sub-national overtunes over the years and secessionist movements have also affected the issue of diaspora coming to this northeastern region and involving itself more concentratedly. The Mizo has an identity. Those 7 states were actually part of Assam. Now they have become 8 states because each of them assert, they assert their identity as several tribal origin. In Arunachal Pradesh, for example, there is no judiciary. So all decisions are taken by village councils. So these are the typical issues where a foreign investor might find very tricky to work. Of course, the conclusion which I draw very quickly is that we need conducive legal context, which I say just before that the legal parameters are different, legal structures are different in various states. There must be a diaspora mobilization strategy because the numbers matter. The mobilizing the diaspora within that kind of atmosphere to involving them more, rather than the diaspora, the northeastern diaspora, it is just these are the excuses for foreign trips for politicians. To go somewhere, meet Indians, Assamese Indians in London, Assamese Indians in Italy, and come back without any kind of strategy on how to involve them. When we try to get involved, there are doors shut. So there must be some government benchmark policies and instruments in place. We are demanding that there must be some kind of, we have a department, ministry in Government of India, you met the Honorable Minister 2 days back, Department of Development of Northeastern Region, Donald. Within the state, we are saying that there must be a department for diaspora to mediate relationship with diaspora, because if we cannot involve them right now, the image of Assam will be deteriorating. Northeastern state will become more of a dark region in the whole, and we need therefore an incubator for returned scholars. One of the ways we volunteer to teach in some of our local universities. When we come to holidays, I teach in some of the universities. But sometimes I feel the professor in the university feels threatened by American scholar coming around and nagging with the students. So there might be returned scholars who are being unused. Accept Western professional accreditations. Sometimes Western professional standards are pointing that. Yes, there are 2 points left more. We need to encourage diaspora to form new professional kinships and organizations. Each time organizing a civil society in Northeastern, it could be troublesome in Delhi as we heard last month, and it can be more troublesome in Northeastern region for all the law and order situations. So we need some professional organization to come in as a kind of civil society and encourage the mainstream Assamese media. I'm rushing to a live telecast of an interview over the national media at 8:30 tonight. But the thing is that it is only because I'm here we have a national voice. Otherwise, Assam does not happen to be a news headlines in national mainstream media. It only happens when the bomb blast happens and it crosses something like 40 in Delhi, 10 is the news. In Assam, 40 dead on spot is the news. Because that it does not happen in the headline. So at one point of time, therefore, we are thinking that as a kind of strategic policy, mobilizing the diaspora's involvement, as a government policy and giving them conducive atmosphere will go a long way to rebuild the image of northeastern region as an unreachable, detached, sub-national, you can say, existence as it happens today. An average Assamese northeastern person gets so frightened by the Haryanvi policeman somewhere in the ministry's door, you know. He becomes very frightened, you know. With a letter to meet somewhere, tomorrow there is a meeting in Vigyan Bhavan. Even to look at it, he feels that non-Indianness of that image should dilute somewhere. And perhaps Diaspora can do this because we have mixed with other people in Italy, in Rome, and as odd places in Nicaragua. Why cannot do it within Assam or the national ministry? Thank you very much. I am available on both my Gmail and official website.
Professor, do give a short introduction of yours, which university you come from, and also.
F5.
This one?
F5, yes.
Good. Good Chairman, our participating, good afternoon. I'm Gu Funiu. My working university is Beijing Institute of Technology. Today my topic is relevance and adaptation of laws of protection of rights and interests of returned overseas Chinese and relatives of overseas Chinese. This paper is not to introduce the law of protection of rights and interests of returned overseas Chinese and relative overseas Chinese, but to talk about the issues and the possible reform in the future. I'm not very sure how much you know about real China. I guess this issue may be a little bit complicated for foreigners. I will try my best to explain clearly in my broken English. So, firstly, I need to give you a little bit of background about this law. In 1990, the Chinese government promulgated the law of protection of rights and interests of returned overseas Chinese and relatives of Chinese. It was revised in 2000. The main purpose is to protect the rights and interests of returned overseas Chinese. Actually, in the beginning, the Chinese government wanted to promulgate another law for overseas Chinese, but they found it quite difficult because overseas Chinese spread all over the world. They involve a different legal system. They found it too difficult, so they chose another easy way, just have a law especially for return overseas Chinese. It's just domestic national law. It's quite easy. According to governmental statistics, about 45 million overseas Chinese and foreigners were originally from China in the world in 2010. For returned overseas Chinese and their relatives, it's almost the same, about 45 million returned overseas Chinese and their relatives. So I need to give you some definition to help you to understand clearly what means overseas Chinese. In Chinese law, overseas Chinese means Chinese citizens who have settled down abroad, not travelers, not overseas students. You settle down, you are permanent residents or long-term residents. Returned overseas Chinese means overseas Chinese who have returned to China and taken it as their place of permanent residence. You need to give it up, their foreign permanent residence. How about relatives of overseas Chinese? This means overseas Chinese and returned overseas Chinese spouse, parents, children, and their spouse, brothers, sisters, father, grandparents, and mother, grandparents, grandchildren. So it's about 3 generations, simply speaking. So firstly, I will talk about the issues of this law. According to the national state, usually we would like to build China as a national state. But if we give the special protection of right and interest of returned overseas Chinese, they have many privileges. So we are worried about if they keep their privilege too much, they will keep their typical features and cultures is much different of Chinese citizens in mainland. Maybe it's not good for national state building. The second question is international experience. In my research, I don't find many states have special law only for returned citizens. Usually, citizen and returned citizen is equal before the law. They enjoy the same rights. They don't have privilege. But in China, according to 1999 law, they have some privileges. The third is China's constitution. According to China's constitution, every citizen, no matter they are overseas or residing in mainland or returned, they are equal before the law. But if we give them privilege, how to find a resolution, the conflicts of law? The two is question on the basis of the 1919 law. Why we have this kind of policy and law, give some privilege? Have four bases. One is overseas relations. Because before 1978, maybe you know, Chinese opened the door in 1978. Before 1978, few Chinese go out and return. I have some figures for you. It's about 260 Chinese citizens exited from China from 1952 to 1978. So just 10,000 per year, the very, very small, compared to 1 billion population. But in 2010, it increased very rapidly. About 140 million Chinese citizens go abroad every year. So you can imagine how big changes. So at the beginning, they think the overseas Chinese have unique overseas relations. They have a bridge between China and the Western states. But now, many Chinese common people, they have this kind of overseas relation. So this overseas relation is not only unique for overseas Chinese anymore. The second is more contributions. Some scholars argued that overseas Chinese make more contributions. They have some figures. I can give you an example. They said about 70% foreign direct investment for China maybe is from the overseas Chinese, not from real foreigners. So they said they make more contribution. But this figure is remarkably disputed. Some scholars said maybe just 5%. So it's very hard to have very detailed statistics. How many foreign direct investment is from foreigners, is from the foreigners who are with overseas ethnic or background. It's hard to have detailed statistics. The third is a disadvantaged group. Some scholars argued because overseas Chinese they are living overseas. They don't know China very clearly. When they returned, they compared with Chinese local people. They don't know too much. They are disadvantaged group. We need to give them some more protection to help them to integrate Chinese community. So that is their arguments. But my argument is some overseas Chinese maybe they don't know China much, but some of them are rich people, are skilled persons. They are not poor. According to my statistics, 45 million overseas Chinese, about 85% are from Southeast Asia, and 15% from Europe and America. Actually, Chinese government want to attract people from America and Europe. The fourth is more obligations. They think they pay more taxation and they produce employment opportunities for China, so we need to give them some more protection. But from the perspective of law, if they do more obligations, we can give them more protection, but not all have more obligations, so we can't give all privileges. There's some of them. So it's challenge as the principles of this law. The principles of this law is also the policy of Chinese government for returned overseas Chinese. It simply speaking is four words: equality in discrimination and case-specific and preferential treatment, especially the last two, case-specific and preferential treatment. The first one is implementing effect and actual support for preferential treatment for returned overseas Chinese and relatives of overseas Chinese are gradually ambiguous and varying. In 1919, we don't have a good legal system for all people, so we promulgated one or specially for returned overseas Chinese. But over last 2 decades, Chinese legal system built better and better, so we have more and more laws. It's enough to protect all people. So if we put returned overseas Chinese and the whole Chinese citizens, they can be protected as the whole system. We don't need special law anymore. The possible reform of this law. Some people talk about the possible reform, but it's just from the scholars, not from government. They are very sensitive because it's related to 45 million overseas Chinese and their relatives in China. So it's just from scholars. Some people fear the more of fostering integration of returned overseas Chinese and relatives of overseas Chinese to replace existing 1990 return overseas Chinese law. Because, like I said before, the preventers don't have a very strong legal foundation, and their basis is shaped. We need to find a new law to replace this one. Otherwise, we need maybe replace this law. We don't need it anymore. So we need to find a term from equality in discrimination, case-specific preferential treatment to equal protection and foster integration. Integration, I find many people talk from the perspective of migration. So we treat overseas Chinese and return overseas Chinese as part of international migrants. So we need to find some points on integration, not give them privilege. So that's my short presentation.
Thank you very much. Again, thank you very, very much for keeping the time. And may I now invite, but I have a very quick query from one of the figures given on your slide. Said 114 million people exited in 2010. Professor, is that true?
Sorry?
One of your slides said 114 million people exited China in 2010.
Yes, every year.
114 million?
Yes, exit. Just for travel, for study, for business, altogether.
Okay.
It's done from the Ministry of Public Security and the Bureau of Exit and Entry Administration. You may find it from the government website.
Okay, that makes it every 10th Chinese traveling overseas in 2010.
Taiwan or some place nearby Hong Kong.
Okay. The next paper is Migrant Work and Human Rights in the GCC countries, some pointers in the context of labor unrest. Dr. Biju Lal, MB.
I use this timelessness as a symbolic expressional means to probably invite your attention to the topic of discussion that I am having here. It's about the migrant labor in the Arab Gulf, probably the Arab Gulf countries. If you look at, I have to base up because the requirement of the situation needs, and I probably try to make my argument and get lost from here, probably getting some acclaims and probably sitting first. But when it comes to a worker who needs to work and finish a part of his work in a time which is humanly impossible, this is what turns out to be the living scenario of a worker to whom I am speaking about. You can imagine the situation of casual labor, or probably what Dan Berman is speaking about, footloose labor, is being a global scenario, not just in the case of Arab Gulf. Probably there are few connecting historical trends which come up in this Gulf example because of the tremendous inflow of Indian workers to that place. And I deal with their expression, I deal with their struggle as a communicating, the political communication of the struggle and its impact probably on the decision-making system of those states. I would say that I would actually mimic Sigmund Bauman here, who said once that Holocaust, the scholarship on Holocaust at the time, he was speaking about 1998 when he wrote that seminal book. He said that he believes that Holocaust has more to say on the status of social science than on the reverse. Okay? So I would say that the life of the worker is actually something terrible, and it will actually illustrate many things to social science, and it also shows a terrible status of exclusion at the academic as well as intellectual levels of exclusion of one of the most important concerns regarding an area where extreme violation is taking place. If you look at this picture, many of you who don't know Malayalam can immediately look at this universal language of picture, which talks about a person who has been trafficked into Saudi Arabia and who lived his life as a person. He lived among gods for 12 years. A novel which has actually been revised the entire conceptualization of girl work. I would say that if this is the reason, I would say that I would again remember probably Theodore Adorno speaking about somebody cannot write poetry after Holocaust again. So this latter, social science, is impossible in the similar way as it happens now after this novel, and probably after this movie, which is called Gatama, is talking about the life of a migrant woman as a housemaid. Let me just come back to this, the main concern which I am having struggle as a communication, which happened probably invisibly at a time in the 90s, which was not there in 2004. You have prominent struggles. The governments dealt with severe measures. But in 2008, you have many policies coming up. Kuwait government tries to discuss in the parliament. GCC has a policy which is in the offing, and Saudi Arabia is establishing a workers' committee, which is in 2002 to 2006. All these are happening as an internal mechanism. What I would say here is about how this dispensation or identity rather is a non-state thing. I just recollect one strong example which was suggested by Mahmoud Darwish, who talked about a Palestinian situation whereby he talks in a poem called Passport. He remembers the question of a customs officer to his group, and where do you come from? From the sea. Where are you going? To the sea. And your address? My bundle is my village. So this is a translocational identity of.
I'm sorry, I still have my bundle is
my bundle is my village. Yeah. You can see in my interactions with some of the differently thinking intellectuals of this sphere, probably some people who are dealing with the impact of modern slavery in a post-capitalist world. In one example, we can see that 50 odd people got killed in a refrigerated truck in the French border, and 50 bodies were found in a refrigerated truck. They were all coming either from their identities as not known, probably they are Chinese, some of them Indians, or who knows what is happening. US is behaving in this way, and the Middle East is for the American or for the English audience is behaving in this way. And look at India, what's happening in this. Workers of Bihari origin are dying of hunger in Toronto. Okay, it happened in 2004. So it's a global scenario, and I think it's a comprehensive interest in being focusing on this issue that matters. And white stripes was one of the most important things. One of my friends told that it is just because the provision of salt tablets, stopping of that, people used to fall down from huge buildings and die on the spot. And if you look at this kind of deaths are taking place at a time when you require a lot of things, you demand too much of physical from a person. When you talk about knowledge and you talk about brain, the problem here is that many people happen to be mere bodies, no brains attached to that, no blood, nothing of that kind. It's a matter of passion, pain, and many things. I don't know how. as probably it is like the gods that appear in Shelley's play Balcony, where one god says the other god that yes, there is a quarrel happening there. Oh, it is something to do with economics, and the other god says, oh, we don't meddle with economics. Okay. So this is an abstract state of social science. I don't talk about state or the other agencies here. I am more concentrating on the social science research orientations and considering these aspects. And the pure matter that why this struggle is taking place is purely because many of the norms that has come from the IGNOU or from the universal the human rights institutions or even by the domestic laws has not been followed well. So it becomes merely a temporal assessment of some of this changes that have taken place in social sciences, considering that how bad it has gone against human rights is one of the most important areas that we can actually work on. Again, I would say its development and stateless is something a very tricky situation. You don't find, because the person who is pushed into an unfriendly zone is rather happening to be an alien with a lot of concern, even or going back itself is a big trouble. So illegality associated with that, the illegality in which the person is living alone becomes a natural phenomenon. So you can't have state immediately coming there and the kind of protecting all these people. As I mentioned, of course, I have two examples to talk about. One about an UAE minister who took a very strong step of finding an industry for $2 million in 2007. He was removed from the cabinet in 2008. Okay. In Bahrain, minister publicly admitted that 75% of the companies working in that place are ghost companies. I told a friend who is working in Oman, who works with hundreds and thousands of human rights violations in that way for last 17 years. He was telling me that he has found slave labor of Indian employees in Oman. So where do you locate the state? Which is the Indian state, which is the other state that you are talking about? This is very perplexing questions, and I don't want to go on to all these laws that which is very familiar to you, most of you. I just wanted to make a very detailed presentation and come back to the whole concept of that. I would only concentrate on establishing my moot point here. About citizenship and there has been this concept of hegemonic citizenship and there has been this concept of non-hegemonic citizenship. I hope some of the concepts which have come around in Sailab and Habib and probably Tanya also. She has actually extended the concept into some kind of statelessness on how liberal societies that are founding on this principle of equality, which is a fictional situation, needs to come down and consider non-state solution to some of the most important things. That's what probably my point for the day. And I wish there is an implication for the Indian state also when you are talking about human rights and socialization into the international community, where your obligations to workers is very, very important. Tandem to the international development of workers' rights, India also had in the 90s one prominent rights-based legislation in the 1990s about the interstate workers, and this has been one of the most well appreciated one. It has never been implemented. Okay, so we talk about the timelessness, time lapses which the state has abundantly got when it comes to poor people, and the timelessness in which people are living. So that's what precisely I would try to talk about. And of late, there is this very strong demand of rights-based policy of workers in the migration policy of the state. At the moment, as I understand from many scholars, it is going to be a management of migration policy which is going to take place, which is trying to block all the traditional and other forms of migrant labor which is happening. We need to think about that. We need to think about that and see that how statist approach will be sometimes detrimental to the work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. And now we come to the last speaker of the day, Dr. Inderjeet Singh Sodhi from Kenya. He would speak on Indian African diaspora's role in economic growth and development in India, a study in context of Tanzania and Kenya. Dr. Inderjeet Singh.
I am Dr. Inderjeet Singh Sodhi. Recently, 4 months back, the month of 1st April, I joined University of Dodoma, Tanzania, not Kenya. Before that, I have worked already in Jaipur, that is called Pink City. Most of the tourists, they visit Jaipur, that is first city. Various parts of the vast African continent, east, west, north and south, have been inhabited by a large number of Indian diaspora since more than 150 years. Their induction into this part of the burgeoning British Empire of the 19th century began in the late 1860s with the export of over 30,000 Indians at that time. In some parts of Africa, like North and Central, the Indian presence, though numerically small, has a powerful impact on the economy. Initially, they were engaged in general trading. They gradually built up big business by purchasing dealerships for international products. In some of the African countries, there was sustained economic boom, particularly during 1980s. But some problems emerged like unemployment, poverty, etc. It has been seen that Indian diaspora have faced all these challenges without any difficulty because they are very hardworking and dedicated to their business. They are currently engaged in field of manufacturing, trading, retailing, automobile, spare parts, agriculture, hotels and restaurants, etc. When we talk about Tanzania, we come to know presently Tanzania has about 40,000 people of Indian origin. Earlier it was more than 200,000. But during 1985, when the government of Tanzania started the process of Ujawala, that is called cooperative system, under which a number of big industries that were owned by Indians and agriculture more than 100 acres that were owned by Indians, they were kept. So they shifted to Britain, Canada, America, France, Germany, etc. It is most of the Indian population is concentrated in the major town center of Dar es Salaam, Arusha, Mawanja, Beira, Dodoma. Still, I believe most of the people in India, they believe Dar es Salaam is the capital of Tanzania. Since 1982, Dodoma is the capital of Tanzania. Still, it has not taken development as it was expected. So I am working in there, Dodoma, that is University of Dodoma, that has been recently established 2007 Central University, that is only one Central University in Tanzania. India and Tanzania have a vibrant business and commercial relationship driven by the presence of vast community of Tanzanians of Indian origin. Indian diaspora has a very strong presence in the gems and jewelry business like Tanzanite. World's 90% Tanzanite is found only in Tanzania, and Tanzania's 90% Tanzanite stone goes to Jaipur, Pink City, the earlier city where I was born and lived. The Indian diaspora is playing an influential role in enhancing investment, accelerating industrial development and boosting our international trade and tourism efforts. They have a widespread network of trade contacts. When we talk about Indian community in Tanzania and other African countries, but particularly in Tanzania and Kenya, we come to know there are basically three communities: Gujarati, Punjabi and Telugu Tamil, that means Andhra Pradesh. Gujarati are basically, their activity is confined to trade, business and shops, but Punjabi, their activity is confined to constructions, transports, hotels and restaurants. When we see the area of Dar es Salaam, we find hotel business is basically confined, that is being run by Punjabi, and some Gujarati also, that is confined only in Dar es Salaam and Moanja. But other cities like Dodoma and Arusha, they have less. And when we talk about industry, most of the industry in Tanzania is confined in Dar es Salaam. That is known also known as capital city, but the administrative and the authorized capital is only Dodoma, and most of the, we can say, business center and government departments still they are located in Dar es Salaam. And Tamil and Telugu, they are basically in education and professional. Those who have done their engineering or MBA, most of them are Tamil or Telugu, that means from Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. If we see in the context of education, we find University of Dar es Salaam, there are only 3 Indians, they are working since last 8 years, all are locals. And the University of Dodoma, they are presently 30 Indians, out of them around 22 are Telugu and Tamils. Similarly, there is one Institute of Financial Management, they have collaboration with Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, IIFT, Delhi. So through that, they are running MBA courses. So every year, Indian faculty from this institute, IIFT, they go and teach. From there also some Indians who are doing the service like engineers, they are also going to have some MBA with collaboration. And recently, few years back, Airtel and Tata, they have also invested. But I want to say that most of the person, either professional, skilled, unskilled, those who are working in these industries or some trade or business, they are from India. There are some submissions. The Indian community in Tanzania has been slowly dwindling in size, but its overall contribution is unlikely to be diluted very significantly. With increasing incentives coupled with liberalized foreign exchange control, the diaspora continues to repose its faith on India, even during the turbulent times. Government will need to take a lead in recognizing the value of Africa-based Indian diaspora's actual and potential contributions to development. The government will need to take the necessary steps through careful study and sustained engagement to understand the different diaspora's strengths, weaknesses, political issues, and so on. There is need to capture the diverse talents, skills, and experience of Indian diaspora throughout the Africa, so that they may be utilized to further India's development agenda. Indian community has much to bring in terms of resources and expertise to development projects in India.
Thank you. So this was the last paper, and I'll now invite Professor Badrul Islam. Badrul Alam, sorry.
That's okay.
And being a Democrat, I would leave it and get a sense of the House. 5 minutes are for, which means not even really half a minute per speaker. But I mean, I personally feel that any seminar without a question-answer session is a very bad idea. And I know we have the constraint of time. So I will take the sense of the House. Would you like to have a question-answer session, and for how long? I mean, if there is something in a presentation which you strongly felt that you should have a question, what we could do is one first and the conclusion by Professor Badrul Alam.
So I go.
No, you just take it. You please ask questions, short, quick question. Any paper you have, except one presenter, all other presenters are still here. Only the gentleman who spoke about Assam with great degree of passion, and in fact I had several questions to him, but I wouldn't have asked several. But since he's not there, so I wouldn't ask that question. Yes, sir.
Well, it's in relation to that, to his presentation, but maybe something that you can answer. I come from a different part of the world. Is it true then that Assam is geographically separated from mainland India? There are intervening countries in between, is that so? Did I get that correctly? Sorry.
No. You see, it's like this. There is a small corridor of about 30 miles or so, which connects, if you look at the map of India, this North Bengal, the state of Bengal, Siliguri corridor, which is also called the chicken's neck, it passes through that. There's one side is Nepal and one side is Bangladesh, and in between is 45 or 46 kilometers of...
It's only 23 kilometers actually.
23, okay, yes. 23 kilometers of India. It is connected. Our Prime Minister, who was in Bangladesh yesterday and today he's returning, actually the thing that can completely change the region is the transit rights and connectivity through our neighbor Bangladesh. When we were one country, the primary route was that we had direct connectivity via Bangladesh. So I have myself lived 5 years in Northeast. So I could refute some of the things. But some of the things he said made a lot of sense. I have myself said in several seminars that it is India's good fortune that Northeast of India does not have a large diaspora. Otherwise, say what the Kashmiri diaspora does to us, or when the Punjab problem happened, what happened with the Sikh diaspora, we would be in deep trouble with what is happening in Northeast if there was a large diaspora to take up their cause. I have stated that in several times, in several seminars. But otherwise, some of the things he could be refuted very conveniently. He referred to the state of Mizoram in northeast of India, which has border with both Bangladesh and Myanmar or Burma. And state of Mizoram today in northeast is the fastest growing of the Indian states. It has almost 100% literacy. It had also a very strong separatist movement. They entered into an accord, gave up complete separatism, total peace in the state after the accord, and that state has done extraordinarily well. Extraordinarily well. It's a remarkable growth story as a case study that when an insurgency stops and everybody sticks to the agreement that is arrived at, how a state can be completely turned around. Mizoram is that story. So any other questions, please?
Well, I do have a sort of a, I guess, sort of a question. It's directed to Indrajit. I just wanted to know if there are any studies between actual interactions between the work that goes back and forth in terms of jewelry. Do you know any studies? I can talk to you later.
Jewelry designing. There are some private institute that is being run by some Indians.
Only in Dar es Salaam, not in any other city. Only in Dar es Salaam. But all Tanzanite stone is not found in Dar es Salaam. That is only in Arusha. That is more than 1200 kilometers from Dar es Salaam. All rough stone that is found in Arusha, that is Mirerani mines. They are known Mirerani. That all goes to Jaipur, India, 90%. But there is no training institute, only in Dar es Salaam.
And what our friend from Africa would understand it very well in the context of Northeast also. You see, as nation state is a new concept in Africa. Similarly, the concept of organized state boundaries is a very new concept in good part of northeast of India also. In Nagaland, in Mizoram, there were several tribes, and there would be tremendous amount of intra-tribal rivalry, and there was no such concept of the, they did not understand the kind of administrative structure and setup that the India, which was ruled by the British or by the princely states, they had not known any such administrative units or administrative infrastructure. So therefore this concept of that you have to pay a tax, you have to go to this institution, you have to obtain this permission, these are all post-independence ideas for good part of the northeastern states. That's one of the reasons. And also what he said about, people say, I've heard this, it is right also that you come from India. In northeast people would say. But this also in our language, when a Bengali in my state of Uttar Pradesh, which is the next state here, and a Bengali from Bengal, when those who are living in other parts of India, in Bengali language or in Sanskrit language they call them Pravasi, which literally could be meaning that somebody who has migrated. He is living in other state of India, but in Bengali he is called Pravasi. So any other question anyone has? Yes, please.
I just wanted to make an observation on Dr. Juna's paper. In the context of human rights violations for migrant workers all over the world, I think your paper